Welcome to the Geek Homeworld. I am your host, SavageTechman. We talk sci-fi, TV, movies, superheroes, and all from a geek perspective. You can find us on Blogger, Google+, Twitter, Facebook. We're everywhere. Join the Geek Homeworld. Hello again, this is SavageTechman, aka Ed, and welcome to another glorious, wonderful, stupendous, exciting, riveting episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast. I'm joined once again here with Cheryl.
Hello.
Hi there.
Are you done talking yet?
No. I'm still working on introductions.
We'll be here for 30 minutes introducing.
30 minutes, yes. We're talking...
Do you have a point?
I have a point. I'm getting there. Okay. And it's called Arrival.
Oh, it's called... I thought you meant a rival.
Oh.
Your point is a rival, not the movie Arrival. Which is what your point is supposed to be about.
Exactly. That was clever. That was very clever. I'm being clever and didn't even know it.
Okay.
So, in case you haven't seen the movie Arrival, I just want to know what's wrong with you.
Spoiler alerts.
This is completely spoiler-filled.
Yes.
Not spoiler-free. Spoiler-filled. So, if you haven't seen Arrival, come back and listen later once you have.
Arrival is based on Ted Chiang's short story, The Story of Your Life, which centers around this concept called linguistic relativity, which is sometimes called the Sapir-Whorf theory, or Whorfianism, I guess, for short. And the idea is that we can better understand each other and cultures and foreign things, and in this case, alien, by understanding each other's language. And so Amy Adams, also known as Lois Lane, is in this film as a linguist, and they call upon her because apparently she already has some CIA and high security clearance for another project, and
they won't talk about.
It's easy to pull her in and get her to come try to figure out what the aliens are saying, and she fully adheres to this idea of Whorfianism.
Which is not to be confused with Lieutenant Whorfianism from Star Trek The Next Generation.
No, Lieutenant Whorfianism is whenever you make a recommendation, no one listens to you.
Exactly, because this is a hypothesis, so nobody listens to the hypotheses that Worf has. They never listen to their tactical officer, which I never understood.
How do you get to be the tactical officer when no one listens to him?
I don't know.
Poor Worf.
Poor Worf. Well, so we saw the movie. I thought it was a great sci-fi movie.
Well, I think one of the things about it is that it's not, it's not a shoot 'em up, fight the aliens, certainly not Independence Day kind of film, and it's not...
I thought we agreed we'd never mention Independence Day research.
I didn't mention it. You just did.
Oh, gosh, I did.
I just said Independence Day.
I broke the fifth wall. Whatever that is.
So the pace of it is very different from most sci-fi films, but every review out there of Arrival mentions two films, mentions 2001: A Space Odyssey,
right, and Interstellar.
And Interstellar, which is of course much more recent.
With Matthew McConaughey, it was all right.
So, because the pacing is much more like that, and the thoughtfulness. Well, and for 2001: A Space Odyssey, that pacing, that very intellectual kind of thinking is in there. And then with Interstellar, these ideas about the interrelationships between time and family and what happens in your life and how it all connects together. I mean, that's really central to this film.
We're all floating in the sea of time.
In fact, I know at least one of the reviews I read said this is what Interstellar wanted to be. Or should have been.
Well, when I think of time, I think of Star Trek Generations. When Professor Zorin, was his name Zorin? Oh my gosh, I can't remember right now. I'm drawing a Star Trek blank here. I don't think I have enough dilithium in my chamber right now. So, anyway, but what if I show you a place where the time is a predator, but time has no teeth? As he says.
Well, I mean, and this is one of the things that Dr. Banks says to her colleague in the film. Mm-hmm. If you knew what was going to happen,
Played by Hawkeye.
Would you exactly, Jeremy Renner? Would you still do it? And so ultimately, over the course of her interactions with the aliens, she comes to know a whole lot about her life as well as the future of the planet. And then she's like, would you still do it if you knew something terrible, something painful was going to happen?
If I may quote a Garth Brooks song here. Yeah, I'm taking it back to the old school because I'm an old fool. But
you certainly are this morning.
Yeah, the dance. If I'm glad I didn't know the way that it would end, the way that it would go.
Because I'd have to miss the dance.
Yeah,
exactly.
If he had, something like that.
Well, and I guess the thing about what she discovers about the alien language is that an understanding of it totally changes your concept of time. And so,
in your perspective,
she takes this mission really from the aliens to kind of re-educate the planet so that they can work together and blah blah blah. You know, all the good side of sci-fi about the future's hopeful. You already mentioned Next Generation, so I guess it's kind of a Roddenberry-ish idea that we can work together and be better.
Well, it kind of takes me into the thought of and I just happened to be reposting the Battle of Sector 001 from Star Trek First Contact and the other day, and I guess it suggests on YouTube things you might like, and it suggested, which was perfect timing, the episode of Darmok, I think episode 102 from Star Trek The Next Generation TV series. And in that one, Picard dealt with the children of Tama. They were Tamarians who speak like in metaphors, or really, I guess, allegory. And that's somewhat similar to how Louise Banks of Arrival and her team communicate with the heptapods. I mean, it's different, but it's similar in the fact that they use imagery, or it's really more than imagery, because Chancellor Troy in that episode said that the Tamarians, or the children of Tama, that they used imagery, but it was really more allegory. But how they communicate is alien to us,
right? And that's the thing, is like this language that they want Louise Banks, Amy Adams' character, to translate is so very different that there's hardly a way to know where to start. And what she figures out is that what they need to deal with is symbolism, which is the actual written language. Like, she's never going to be able to speak their language. She just isn't capable of making the sounds of their language. But she begins to communicate in written form and learns their written language.
If I were Picard in Star Trek Darmok, the episode, and they said Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, I wouldn't know what that meant. Or Darmok and Jalad on the ocean, Shaka when the walls fell, or his eyes wide open. I'd get his eyes wide open, but I wouldn't understand the other stuff.
Well, and that's the idea. Yeah, you don't know what it's based about.
But in Arrival, like you were saying, their language is even more, pardon the quote, alien than
the Tamarians.
Exactly, because that is...
At least with the Tamarians, you could understand the words. You just didn't know what the words...
The universal translator could work out the words. It just didn't...
You didn't know what the words meant, because there was so much more
to put them into
meaning behind them than just Shaka when the walls fell. Well, who's Shaka? What walls?
Is it Shaka Khan?
Oh, Lord.
No, but I don't know.
Well, speaking of the heptapods language, there's spoken language. I guess spoken is the right word. I don't think we ever saw mouths, but the music in the film kind of picks up from the same sounds. The composer is Johan Johansson, who often works with this director Denis Villeneuve from Quebec. I'm assuming Johan Johansson is not from Quebec. I'm not sure. Sounds pretty Nordic to me, but really picks up on that sort of clicky and repeating patterns and things. And the music in the film is really wonderful. In fact, this is one of those films which will almost certainly get multiple nominations across categories, because you've got this incredible cinematography.
True.
You've got really beautiful
the effects,
compositions.
Remember the effects credits? We were watching the credits. They were like, they had so many SFX lines of people that worked on that.
And they did, and the thing is, it's not about, I mean, there certainly are some explosions, there's some violence when they're showing like the riots of the people in the streets who just want to know what's going on, but the relationship between the aliens and the people, the military generally who are working with them, is so different. And it's really beautiful the way that time elapses in this film, because the film's all about time.
But the fact that time is almost like something you can fast forward and rewind through, which is
it makes
amazing.
the time is almost infinite in this film. It feels almost infinite. In fact, the scene where they first take Dr. Banks up to meet the heptapods does feel like an eternity. But that's the only part of the film where it feels like an eternity. The rest of the film is pretty well paced. But a slower pace than what other films are out there most of the time.
This is really a thinking person's sci-fi movie that you really this leaves you with some deep questions, and I'm not sure that it answers them all, but it does give you hope that if we can understand an alien language and just know enough of it, it changes the way that we think, then maybe it changes the way we look at each other and all of our differences, and we find the similarities as as the human race, let alone, in 3,000 years, the heptapods came here so that they could essentially plant the seeds, as so to speak, in humans, so that in 3,000 years they know we'd be able to time travel to save them.
Well,
so
ultimately to save the whole thing in the moment, Louise has to remember the future to say something in the present.
This is definitely a Star Trek episode here. There's a lot of
there's a lot of time. Well, and not just the time shifting, but she's constantly having these visions and things that, is this the past? Is this the future? Is it reality? Is it a dream? Is it a nightmare? So real, and the way that the filmmakers, the director, and the writer have worked that together is really, it really is beautiful.
Well, I've arrived at
the end of the segment.
And saying
good, because I'm arriving at the end of my rope.
Okay, well, we're already there. And I'm saying that you should go see Arrival. It's not going to be the big sci-fi blowout that you're expecting, special effects.
But it did for a time have 100% on Rotten Tomatoes.
It did. And it fell a little bit.
Which is why I went to see it. I mean, frankly.
You did not want to go see it.
I didn't want to go see it.
But it was good. It was very good. And in its own right, I think it'll do very well. So go out and see Arrival. We liked it. And you will too, we bet.
Geek Homeworld. Review. Preview.
We're talking now about the movie Hacksaw Ridge.
A new film out from Mel Gibson, who, despite everything about Mel Gibson, he's a brilliant director. And this is an incredible story based on a true story, an unbelievable true story, just unimaginable what the main character, Desmond Doss, who's played by Spider-Man, Andrew Garfield,
or former Spider-Man,
is able to do.
Now, we had a bet going, you and I, and for some reason I thought it was Hayden Christensen, and I have no idea.
Oh, yeah, you were really fighting me on that.
I was adamant that that's who was the lead in there, and found out it was Andrew Garfield, and I tell you what, when you put this role up to anything he's ever done, I am thinking most of this movie and the character portrayals, the script was brilliant. I see Academy Award stamped all over this movie.
Oh, for sure. And again, it's another film
nominations, including Andrew Garfield.
Well, I often will come out of a film and say, well, that could have been 20 minutes shorter or something.
Right. Or
especially these
there went 2 hours of our lives.
Well, and this one is over 2 hours long. Mm-hmm. And I did not think it needed to be any shorter. And often when there are battles involved or fights, that's when I really think that didn't have to be that long. But this one was really well, I keep saying this, well paced. It was. It unwrapped, and it had the right amount of battle intensity and for the right amount of time.
A little warning there too, because
and then it gave you a break before it went back into that again.
If you've seen some stuff in Walking Dead, you would definitely be comfortable watching this movie, because there are body parts that are blown shred heads that are split in half. I mean, stuff I wasn't expecting that.
Well,
to be
I don't
that
even know why
graphic.
they wore helmets, because those helmets clearly didn't do them any good.
It did. And oh, by the way, this is a spoiler filled episode.
If you haven't seen the movie, you will hear about it now.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
and the thing is, it reminded me of like the opening sequence of Saving Private Ryan, where that you have that real brutality of what battle is. And if you think about
this wasn't
your grandfather or your great grandfather who fought in World War II, and we sort of think of this very kind of sanitized idea about war back then, but war has never been anything but brutal.
This was very gritty, but it was also, it had so much heart to it. And at the core of the story is Desmond Doss, and he just was like a stick in the mud. He refused to waver on the fact of touching a rifle, let alone taking another life, and that was his belief, and he stuck to that belief. And a lot of people sometimes don't always stick to their beliefs. It was nice to see someone who believed in something and followed it through, and still was able to work within the confines of society.
Well, you like to bring in these sort of random bits of other pop culture, and it makes me think about the Kenny Rogers song that they turned into the TV movie, The Coward of the County. Sometimes you have to... you don't have to fight to be a man. Of course, in that one, he ends up fighting to be a man. But
great song.
Yeah, it is a great song. Not as great as a movie, but it is okay.
Well,
but this movie with Andrew Garfield's performance, and really all of the guys in his company, they're all such characters, and I'm sure that they've got every bit of every kind of war buddy character in there in his group, but they all really come across very well. And then Vince Vaughn as his sergeant
surprised me. A very serious role, but very different for him, and very well acted.
Well, Vince Vaughn to me always looks so huge in most movies, but in this movie he doesn't come across as huge in the same way. And he's not like he's part of the fabric of everything.
One of the actors that really impressed me was Desmond's father in the movie, Hugo Weaving, who we know as V from Vendetta, Agent Smith from the Matrix trilogy, and he was in, he was the head elf there. I can't think of his name right now, in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. And so big sci-fi action, usually good guy, bad guy, whatever. But what a great dramatic role he had as the really troubled father, the veteran, and what he went through, and the abuse that happened at home and all that. And
the abuse he takes from his company when he's trying to train. Also another...
Desmond does, yeah.
Oh, sorry. And a young actor somehow managed to get a part, a gentleman named Milo Gibson. I don't know that the fact that his daddy was heading the show was any part of that. But also great performances from Teresa Palmer as Andrew's love interest, and then Rachel Griffith as his mother. Just, there's not a weak performance in there. There's not a weak moment in there.
I'm telling you, it started, and I said to somebody when we were waiting outside after the movie got out, and I came across a couple that was standing outside of the theater, and they said, I said, wow, what a powerful movie. And I said, every movie starts with a great script. And the lady that was with him says, well, not all of them. And I said, well, this was different. This had a great solid script. The direction was great. The cinematography was great. There's not one flaw I can totally find in this movie. I'd have to really nitpick to find something I didn't like about this movie.
Well, and it's already got several film nominations from the Australian Film Institute.
Yes.
Coming up for everything from screenplay, supporting actors and actresses, cinematography, direction, the leads as well, editing, costume design, really just so well done. And then, and then the actually clearly did beautiful scene work in Virginia, where the film starts out, his hometown. Just, you want to go up and hike up to where they were.
And the battle scenes were just incredible. The effects involved with that, and the precision and the timing I know it took a lot to pull all that off, and there were some very tender moments with his dad talking to his 3 war buddies in the cemetery.
Who were dead in the cemetery,
yeah. And he was out there drinking and talking to him, and he cuts his hand at one point, and he spills blood on, gets off of his hand onto one of the tombstones, and it's just a really poignant moment. And there's really, with Hugo Weaving's character, there is a very important moment. Well, first at the dinner table when one of his
older brother signs up.
Yeah, he signs up and he gives them hell and tells them how his buddies were split in half and shot apart and all that. And then that son kind of storms out. And then later on, Desmond says that he can't sit at home and watch others defend his liberty and his freedom and not do anything. And he said... And Hugo Weaving, and almost tear-filled, says, "I can't afford to lose both of my sons to war." And wow, what a powerful, just overcoming movie it was.
Well, I mean, it's a story about standing up for what you believe in, and a couple of the things he happens to believe in are America and this great evil. I mean, he says, "Yes, I believe we're fighting Satan here."
Well, that's what the guy talking.
I can't fight myself. I need to, I'm going to save lives. I'm not going to take lives.
Yeah, which was big tagline part of the movie there. That while others are taking lives, I'm going to be saving them.
Well, and just brilliant performances, like we said, all around. Another great performance, Sam Worthington as his captain, who is challenging him all along, and at the end, he has to apologize to him. And one of the great things that I always like to see in a film that's based on a true story is what happened. And so we do get to see some interviews with some of the real people from that time period, and later on, of course, when they're elderly.
That was taking it home with the actual people, and they were giving their tear-filled interviews. I mean, actual interviews.
Yeah, to see this tough colonel crying about something that happened, 50, 60 years before. It was so
real, and war changes you, and it changes you in not so many good ways sometimes, but it's a powerful movie. I don't know much more to say.
Well, and again, I don't want to say that this is a beautiful movie, because I mean, there's definitely beautiful scenes in Virginia,
right.
But then of course the battle scene is gruesome, and it's almost alien. Like, it looks like they're on another planet, because it's just been ravaged. Exactly.
Yeah,
everything's been shelled to death, Yeah,
this is going to go down as one of the great war movies, but dealing with the effects.
I mean, it's definitely along the lines of Saving Private Ryan. I think another great film in that same category of realistic, but it has these moments of humor.
Yes.
But all of it's at the right. It's the right amount of humor at the right time. It's the right amount of intensity at the right time.
And I kind of want to close this segment saying that his character did remind me a little bit of Forrest Gump, but not to the comical sense how Forrest Gump was, just in the sense that Desmond Doss seemed like this abnormal, what is normal, right? But compared to everything around him, he definitely was unique in that sense. Now, he didn't stumble through history. He wasn't
intellectually challenged like Forrest Gump.
Right.
But I can see how you can see. Right. He's kind of a pure soul. Not really pure because of what he's been through, but he's set on what he believes is the right thing to do. He stands
firm upon the rock of his beliefs.
Yeah, and he's going to do what he's supposed to do. That's funny, he's standing on a rock, because he literally stands on a rock in the film.
Okay, that just came to me. But
I mean, but he even, he saved some of the Japanese guys too, so.
So if you have not gone out to see Hacksaw Ridge, don't let this movie pass by without seeing it.
And go see it in the theater. It is a battle film, so you want to see
it's
the big screen.
Take maybe a veteran or somebody with you, that they'll appreciate it. It may be too much for some, but when you think about the horrors of war, this does show them, but it does show the beauty of a soul and the beauty of belief and the power that lies therein. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Geek Homeworld podcast with your host, SavageTechman. You can find us on Libsyn, Google+, follow us on Twitter, like us on Facebook, listen to us on iTunes, see us on YouTube, be part of our Mixler chats. Thank you. See you again on the Geek Homeworld podcast.
Geek Homeworld.